I saved this world. I saved the lives of every person here, even the girl I loved, the one I thought loved me back. But they all betrayed me. Even Alvina.it all started when the Torrent King of Terrainer accidentally summoned me. He was trying to summon a god-level monster, but instead I appeared, because I wasn't a monster. He sold me like a slave. After years of training, pain, and bloodshed, I finally became a hero. And then I stood against that very king. He used summoning magic to call forth a demon, but I killed it with a single strike, and then I killed the king as well. I wasn't alone. With Alvina and the others by my side, we became known as the Seven Heroes. For years, we fought together and lived together. I believed they were my family. I even thought Alvina would one day become the mother of my children. But the truth was something else. They opened a new summoning portal using the heart of the dead king. This time, it wasn't to summon a monster, it was to get rid of me. They said I had become too famous, and people wanted to make me the new king. I looked at Alvina, but she didn't stand with me either. She wanted to become a queen, not the wife of some king, and then they banished me from Terrainer and sent me back to Earth. When the 6 heroes returned, they announced that hero Sunihan had left for Earth of his own will. After that, the 6 of them declared themselves the new kings of the continent, and Terrainer was divided into 6 kingdoms. 10 years later, in the middle of a forest, a girl was working in a field when suddenly a fish fell from the sky. She was still staring at it in shock when, then a pig fell from the sky. She looked up, and saw a naked man falling from the sky. She was terrified. Still, she went over to help him. When he woke up, she gave him some food. But he couldn't understand her language. The girl explained that people in the Lilstein kingdom didn't speak that language. A strange smile appeared on the man's face, as if he had realized something. He was just about to strike a villain-like pose when the girl said, "You should put some clothes on first." He started eating like a starving man and said, "It could use a little seasoning, but thanks." Looking at his face and attitude, the girl thought he might be some kind of noble. She asked his name. The girl said, "Alita." But the mood changed the moment he asked his next question. "What's your relationship with the Mad King Lussan?" In the blink of an eye, the table flew toward him. Alita pulled out a dagger and attacked, but the strike missed. The man was suddenly standing behind her. Alita launched several more attacks, but the man dodged every strike with smooth, ninja-like movements. In the end, he blocked her attack with a wooden spoon and defeated her. He said, "I've got this, and I'm not afraid to use it." Then he told her his name, Cyan, and said he had come from Earth. Alita was stunned. Could he be the same hero who saved the world 10 years ago? Then she revealed her full name, Alters Bella Luzin Luslan. She was the daughter of the former King Luzin. After her father's defeat, a hunt began to wipe out the entire royal bloodline. So she was raised in hiding. A trusted knight took her into the forest and taught her how to fight. But years later, he went out to get supplies and never came back. Since then, Alita had been living alone. Cyan calmly said that he was the one who had killed her father. Then he asked, "Do you consider me your enemy?" Alita said that man was never really her father, so it didn't matter to her. Cyan became angry when he learned that his former companions had now become kings. Then Alita asked, "By the way, why did you fall here naked?" Cyan dropped his mug. "It's not my fault," he said. "Only a human can pass through the portal. Clothes can't." And that was where his new story began. Suddenly, the protagonist sensed something suspicious. He told Alita that he had been self-summoned, and portals like that could easily be detected by mages. If she had been hiding for so many years, his arrival might have exposed her location. Alita looked out the window, and the truth was clear. Her cabin was already surrounded by soldiers. Voices echoed from outside. "We know a summoning happened here!" Outside, an old man with a grim expression was reporting to his superior, Xenon. He said that traces of powerful conjuration magic were clearly visible, and the source was this very house. Xenon nodded coldly and gave the order. "Prepare for battle." Inside, Cyan watched in surprise as Alita put on her battle attire. Every movement she made was graceful, beautiful, yet strangely calm. He couldn't stop himself from asking, "Have you always trained for moments like this?" He started feeling guilty, as if this entire chaos was somehow his fault. He thought Alita must be burning with anger inside. "If you want to say something," he said, "don't hold back your anger, or your tears." Hearing his blunt words, Alita was genuinely surprised. With a faint smile, she replied, "Thanks, Cyan, for the advance warning about the surprise attack." Her gratitude made him feel awkward. Outside, a guard's voice roared. Sinner, come out! Otherwise we'll blow the house up! Xenon impatiently gestured to the mage. Start with a minor assault. The mage muttered a guttural chant, and red flames began gathering in his hands. In the next moment, a massive spear of fire was launched toward the house, crashing inside with a terrifying explosion. Even Xenon stepped back after seeing its power. Wasn't that a bit too much? He asked in alarm. The mage laughed. Our orders are to capture her. The explosion is only superficial. She won't die, unless she's clumsy and gets burned a little. Before the flames had even fully cleared, Alita stepped outside. Her movement was just a blur. Her blade flashed, and several soldiers fell within seconds. The remaining guards rushed at her like a wave of steel, but she moved with unbelievable speed. Her weapon seemed like an extension of her will. Every strike was effortless and deadly. Several soldiers collapsed, and the rest stood stunned. Whispers spread among them. Is that farm woman really a swordsman? Alita was searching for a chance to escape when suddenly a heavy attack came crashing toward her. A towering warrior roared. How dare you attack a true royal soldier with the king's bloodline? He stepped forward. I am Lilstein Knight Xenon, and from this moment on, I am your executioner. Alita immediately felt the raw fighting energy coming from his armor. He was far stronger than the others. Xenon launched a fast strike, but she dodged it. She avoided the second attack too, and hope flashed in her eyes. There's a chance. She spotted an opening and attacked, but her blade hit an unseen magical barrier and was forced back. Xenon laughed. You're strong, but my defense is even stronger. Tricks like that won't work on me. In the next moment, a brutal blow shattered her defense. A wave of pain rushed through her body, and drops of blood splashed onto Xenon's face. He wiped his face in disgust and said, If you're a real swordsman, then understand this. You don't stand a chance. Put down your weapon. Alita's arm was broken, hanging uselessly at her side. A heavy realization settled inside her. This was her fate. She gave up and surrendered. Xenon smiled. A wise decision. But before he could even finish speaking, a voice came from behind him. Xenon immediately turned around. And there, the protagonist was standing there. His expression was unreadable. In a calm voice he said, A moment ago you were full of anger, and now you're showing mercy. Xenon was stunned. He couldn't even understand when or how this man had appeared behind him. He was just there. Who are you? Xenon roared. Finally finding his voice, the protagonist replied calmly. I have no personal grudge against you. But this responsibility, I'll have to take it. Xenon barely understood his words when suddenly there was a blur of motion. The next instant, a terrifying punch slammed into his face. With a massive impact, Xenon was sent flying and crashed into the ground. The guards around them panicked. Right before their eyes, their commander had been defeated in a single strike. Even the injured Alita stared in disbelief. She couldn't understand why the former hero was standing against his own soldiers. The frightened mage shouted, This is a remnant of the evil army! Kill him now! The soldiers rushed toward him in panic. The protagonist let out a tired sigh. Even after your leader falls, you still won't back down? He shrugged slightly. Looks like I don't have a choice. In the next moment, his fists became a blur. With every punch, guards were sent flying. Those he couldn't punch were knocked down with precise stomps. With each strike, he quietly murmured an apology, almost as if he didn't enjoy doing this. Within moments, the entire contingent was scattered across the ground. Xenon slowly crawled out of the crater and froze when he saw the scene in front of him. His elite guards were unconscious. Some were half buried in the dirt. An unarmed man had destroyed his entire force with just one hand. Then a memory flashed through Xenon's mind. He had seen this man before, years ago, in the royal castle, the great savior of humanity. The hero. The protagonist turned toward him and looked down with cold disdain. So you're finally awake. His voice was calm, but icy. But it seems like you still need a little more sleep. Before Xenon could say anything, another blast struck him and slammed him back into the ground. Amid the dust and debris, the protagonist's voice echoed. There's no reason to continue this fight. But if the mage still wants to fight, I'm ready. The mage looked at the fallen elite warriors and fear crept into his heart. Where did this monster come from? The protagonist glanced at the stunned guards and then asked Alita. So, what do you want to do now? A short while later, the two of them began leaving the area. The mage bitterly declared the mission a failure and ordered his men to carry the injured. One guard reported with a trembling voice that despite such a brutal fight, no one had died, and not a single bone had been broken. The mage was shaken. How is that even possible? What exactly happened here today? Night had already fallen, and the two of them walked quietly through the darkness. The protagonist said, "The soldiers won't be able to follow us in this terrain. That's good, because the recent transfer weakened me a lot. I can only use about 10% of my real power." Just then he noticed Alita groaning in pain. Concerned, he asked, "Are you okay? Your right arm was broken." Alita let out a relieved breath and said she was glad things hadn't escalated further. Her strange gratitude confused the protagonist a little. After a while, he carefully wrapped her arm with bandages and said softly, "I hope this helps." As always, Alita thanked him gently. The atmosphere stayed quiet for a moment. Then suddenly, with almost forced cheerfulness, she said, "I should go now. I'm leaving." Her words clearly showed that she wanted to protect her independence. But the protagonist was completely caught off guard. "Where are you going?" he shouted. He scolded her. "Your arm is broken. We should travel together. Don't make sudden decisions like this." After calming himself, he said firmly that he would help her. He felt partly responsible for what had happened today, and he couldn't leave an injured person alone. Alita stayed silent for a moment, then slowly nodded. "All right. Tonight I'll remain under your care," he immediately replied. "Don't call me sir. Just use my name." Alita agreed at once. Then she asked what their plan was now, because her identity could no longer stay hidden. Alita said she had originally planned to go to a nearby village, but the risk of search parties was too high. In the end, they decided to cross the mountains and head toward the bustling commercial city of Kagan. At that same moment, inside the palace of the Lilstein kingdom, a man sat quietly reading in a grand hall surrounded by books. His study was interrupted by an urgent summons. Soon, a subordinate arrived and began reporting about the search party sent to the Defilin Mountains. It was now clear, the man was King Lilstein himself. The report stated that someone resembling the former hero had been seen near traces of powerful conjuration magic. Behind one of the shelves in the palace, a hidden shadow door opened, leading down into a terrifying underground chamber. A figure descended the stairs and began a dark ritual. It was King Lilstein. He passed through a shimmering portal-like barrier and entered a chilling chamber on the other side, where ancient arcane artifacts, books, and a crude laboratory filled the room. A faint hint of apprehension appeared in his eyes. From the darkness, a voice full of hatred echoed. "How ironic! A king who calls himself a hero is the one keeping me imprisoned." The speaker was trapped inside a pulsing green magical circle, his hands bound with heavy chains. Lilstein said calmly with a mocking tone, "You've improved quite a bit in the last month and a half." It was then revealed that the prisoner was a descendant of the Luslin bloodline. The king asked if he knew why the circle had changed from red to green. He explained that it meant the mana transformation was complete. The prisoner roared in anger, saying he pitied the people who worshipped the king. Lilstein replied coldly, "In this room, there is only one person worthy of pity, and that's you." Then he made a chilling announcement. "Now your heart will be taken." Fear appeared in the prisoner's eyes. Without hesitation, the king stepped forward and performed a horrifying arcane act. In the next moment, a pulsing ethereal form, like the prisoner's life essence, appeared in his hand. He compressed it tightly. As he extracted the mana, he muttered, "This isn't enough." To break the dimensional walls, he needed more pure Luslin blood. Just then, a subordinate rushed into the room. He reported that the search groups sent to capture the other Luslin descendant had failed their mission. They couldn't even identify the target. Instead, they had seen an unknown man, dark hair, dark eyes, with an appearance similar to the Galena race. Lilstein's mind began racing. The pieces started coming together. Memories surfaced. A faint trace of shock appeared on his face. Could that unknown person be someone special? Could it be the very person he was thinking about? In the next moment, he stopped himself. No, that's impossible. But doubt kept growing in King Lilstein's mind. If it truly was the man who had disappeared years ago, how could he have crossed dimensions without being detected? Suspicion and disbelief clashed within him. Meanwhile, Cyan and Alita finally arrived in Kagan. Seeing the city's lights and crowded streets, Alita's eyes widened. Cyan explained that Kagan used to be the main base of the Southern Clan. "It's easy to hide here," he said. So many different races come and go that anyone can disappear into the crowd. Alita was impressed hearing about the city's ancient history. Meanwhile, Cyan's memories drifted back to the past. He mentioned the Galena race, describing them as similar to Northern Asians. Alita suddenly became excited. Are those the people connected to the Queen of Thousand Faces energy? She remembered that it was a special battle energy technique capable of manipulating air to change one's appearance. It had been Alvina's signature fighting style. Cyan nodded. I created that technique, and I taught it to her. He even offered to teach it to Alita as well, but she refused. For a moment, an awkward silence settled between them. Then Cyan suggested they find a place to stay. As they walked, Cyan playfully demonstrated the Thousand Faces technique and briefly turned his face into that of a baby, leaving Alita confused. The two of them were searching for a place to spend the night when Cyan suddenly stopped. His gaze fixed on a grand mansion. Alita asked, Do you recognize that inn? Cyan replied in a serious voice. It was never an inn. In his memories, that place had once been used for public executions. There had only been gallows there. Seeing how much the city had changed strangely excited him. Let's go inside, he said with a mischievous smile. Maybe we'll run into a few ghosts. Inside, a stern-faced man was handing out room keys to arriving guests. Cyan was about to turn away when he suddenly heard the receptionist muttering. This job is so boring. Cyan couldn't understand why the man sounded so angry. Alita explained that the receptionist had been speaking casually to him. Cyan realized he might have sounded rude without meaning to. He quickly apologized. Alita smiled and said, It's fine. You can just be yourself. Then she asked, So what's the plan now? We're in Kagan. Cyan replied that he needed time to adjust to this new environment. Then he asked if he could stay with her for a while. Alita's answer came immediately. No. Just leave. Cyan was completely stunned. She explained that she didn't live alone, and if he stayed with her, it would only bring more trouble. Cyan felt a flash of anger, but he accepted what she said. Then he bluntly replied, Without me, you'll be captured almost immediately. Alita shivered when she heard that. Cyan explained that magic hadn't been used to summon him, so theoretically his presence should be unknown. But there was one problem. Every time he moved, dimensional vibrations spread out. Alita, who was also a Luslan descendant, understood instantly. That meant no matter how far she ran, they could still track her. Despair appeared on her face. Cyan quickly tried to calm her down. Yesterday I was unconscious, he said. But now I'm blocking those vibrations with magic. Then he warned her that the block wasn't permanent. It would need to be reactivated every 2 or 3 days. Alita realized that she would have to stay close to Cyan. But a new question began forming in her mind. Was staying with him safety, or an even greater danger? She couldn't help wondering why Cyan needed her at all. Would being with him only put her in more danger? Meanwhile, in the capital of the Luzener Delstray Kingdom, inside the palace office, Knight Xenon knelt on the floor. Please give me another chance, he said firmly. I want to capture the fugitives and restore my honor. His superior looked at him in surprise. You won't be punished for this failure, he said. The king hasn't given such an order either. But Xenon didn't back down. The responsibility is mine, and I have to fix it myself. Seeing his unwavering loyalty, his superior spoke with a hint of admiration. You truly are a knight. In the end, Xenon was granted permission. The moment he left the room, he wasted no time. He began studying the details about the fugitives, analyzing possible hideouts, and creating strategies as if they skilled mercenaries. To capture Cyan and Alita, he decided to head to Kagan, since it was the largest hub for mercenary work. But his real curiosity was something else. He wanted to learn more about the mysterious young man who was traveling with the Luslan descendant. Something about him reminded Xenon of an old savior. Back in the inn at Kagan where the fugitives were staying, the butler welcomed a newly arrived guest, Lord Tad. Are you referring to Cyan and Alita? Tad asked. The butler nodded. Here, the system of battle energy was also mentioned. Swordsmen were divided into 6 ranks. The first stage was called Seed, where people learned to enhance their bodies using battle energy. The second rank was Warrior, where energy could be infused into metal weapons to create a force blade. After that came the Knight and Master stages, where armor and even non-metal weapons could absorb battle energy. Above all of them was the Transcendental rank, where blades could be materialized from the energy of the air itself. And at the very top was the legendary divinity rank, a level that only a few people in Trainer had ever reached. Cyan remembered that he had once reached the pinnacle of power. But now, due to the lack of energy, he had fallen all the way down to the fighter rank. Lord Tad was astonished that someone so young had once reached such a high stage. "It's good that you two are here," he said. Then he explained that a subjugation squad would depart in the morning and advised them to get some rest. Exhausted, Cyan collapsed onto the bed and began complaining about how difficult it was to earn travel money. He remembered how, in the past, he could easily make money by robbing random noble houses. Alita replied sarcastically. "So the legendary hero was actually a thief?" Cyan answered calmly. "The girl I loved was a thief too. According to him, it wasn't theft, it was justice. They only targeted nobles who exploited ordinary people." He added coldly that doing that kind of thing now would be difficult. "But there's nothing quite like the thrill of taking down your enemies." His dark words made Alita visibly uneasy. Just then, Cyan had a realization. This new mission might help him regain his lost battle energy, and the opponents would be worthy as well. Alita challenged him. "Why do you call yourself weak? You defeated me with a spoon, and you easily took down those knights." Cyan calmly replied. "I was so weak that I needed a spoon to fight you." His honest answer only made Alita more frustrated. Cyan explained that it was because of experience. "Like in a PvP match," he said, "a pro player almost never loses to someone just one level below them." Alita looked confused. "What are levels in PvP?" He had to remind himself that she didn't understand concepts from his world. The next day, Lord Tad confidently declared that any monster entering his territory would not leave alive. Raising his sword, he shouted, "King Jackson Guard himself made me a knight! I will destroy these beasts!" Not far away, Cyan was listening to the speech. He appreciated Tad's passion, but deep down he thought that such a heavy sword wouldn't be useful in a real battle. He also found it strange that even after so many years, the knights of this region hadn't evolved much. Then his eyes fell on Alita's injured arm. "How does it feel now?" he asked. Alita replied, "I'm fine. Your energy helped it heal," Cyan said. "Get ready." Alita didn't understand. He became serious and said, "Stay alert. I smell something strong, like something burning." In the very next moment, a terrifying creature leaped near the group. "Everyone stop! Prepare to attack!" Lord Tad shouted. A pack of wolves surrounded by flames rushed out of the shadows and charged toward them. Tad raised his sword. "Let them come to me! Their flames can't stop a knight's sword." But then something unexpected happened. One wolf suddenly broke away from the pack and lunged straight at Tad, seriously injuring him. Cyan said calmly, "That's why you should have taken off the armor." Tad looked at him in shock. The wolves spread out in every direction, surrounding the group. The soldiers tried to hold their formation. Then the real terror appeared. A massive fiery alpha wolf stepped forward. The entire battlefield filled with its overwhelming presence. Everyone else panicked. But excitement appeared on Cyan's face. He felt like the beast was about to do something interesting. He stepped forward while the other soldiers began retreating. Lord Tad shouted, gathering his courage, "Don't panic! This is our chance to kill the Alpha." He took responsibility for protecting the ranks and left the Alpha to Cyan and Alita. Cyan smiled. "So the dangerous job falls to us." Then he explained the plan. Alita would face the Alpha, and he would hold off the rest of the pack. He made it clear that he wasn't going to run. "Alita, now!" Cyan's voice echoed. Alita leaped forward bravely and swung her sword toward the Alpha. But instead of biting, the Alpha opened its mouth and released a crackling blue energy flame toward her. Alita didn't panic. Following the strategy, she drove her blade into the Alpha's hide. But the strike didn't injure it, it only made it angrier. Alita launched another powerful attack. This time she aimed directly at its head. Cyan watched with chagrin. Victory seemed close. But something unexpected happened. The sword became stuck in the Alpha's forehead. And instead of weakening, the beast grew even stronger. Despair appeared on Alita's face. Her perfectly aimed strike had done nothing. With a terrifying roar, the Alpha launched a counterattack. A massive wave of force slammed into her and sent her flying with full force. Chaos spread across the battlefield. Cyan's eyes instantly sharpened. The situation was no longer going according to plan. The Alpha's rising power clearly showed that this fight wasn't going to be as easy as he had thought. After being struck by a violent surge of blue lightning, Alita collapsed unconscious. The Alpha Wolf immediately grabbed her in its jaws, like a trophy from battle. Shock and horror clashed inside Cyan. "Alita!" His voice tore out of his throat. At that moment, his mind flashed back to something they had talked about at the inn. When he had told Alita about his past. King Luzanode had summoned him by sacrificing royal hearts, binding his existence to Terrainer. But this time the situation was different. Now his existence was tied to Alita's bond, because she was his summoner. If the Alpha took her, if Alita disappeared, Cyan would immediately be pulled back to Earth. He looked at the unconscious swordswoman in the distance and felt a wave of desperation. But his body was failing. His battle energy was almost gone. Even his exchange energy was dangerously low. He couldn't run fast. Fear gripped him. After waiting 10 years to return, everything could end now. In that moment, he made a decision. Even with little energy left, he would launch a magic attack. The Alpha was still standing there, holding Alita in its jaws. Her sword was stuck in its forehead. Suddenly, a brilliant beam of light burst forth. Cyan attacked with unexpected speed and power. The colossal wolf crashed to the ground with a massive impact. Everything happened so quickly that even Cyan himself was surprised. He let out a breath of relief and pulled Alita back. For a moment, he celebrated simply being alive. Then he steadied himself, trying to push away the fear of being dragged back to Earth. Later, in a quiet part of the forest, they sat beside a campfire. Cyan asked, "How do you feel now?" Alita opened her eyes and said, "My whole body hurts." She added that the Alpha probably hadn't intended to kill her, because fiery wolves often capture humans and bring them to their leader. Seeing the Alpha's lightning ability, she wondered if it might have been some kind of mutation. Then her eyes settled on Cyan. She stayed silent for a moment. Then she asked, "When did we become allies? And why are you hiding your real identity?" She reminded him that the 6 kingdoms were created by those same heroes. If that was the case, Cyan should be treated like a royal guest. Cyan gave a dry laugh. "A guest? I'd be lucky if I'm not executed." Then he told the truth. After defeating the Emperor, his own allies had betrayed him and sent him back to Earth. Even now, he still didn't understand why they had done it. It hadn't been an impulsive betrayal. It had been a planned and cold decision. The thought continued to torment him from within. Then he noticed that Alita, who was usually calm, had turned pale. His revelation had shaken her. She now understood that this conflict wasn't just personal. It was like a war against all of Terrainer. Alita slowly said, "You came back for revenge. That's why you're hiding your identity." Cyan stared at her blankly. "You actually understood what I meant?" Alita nodded. "Then why are you so calm?" Cyan asked in surprise. "I just said I'm against all 6 kingdoms." Alita smiled faintly. "I'm already their enemy. I've been fighting them for 10 years. Cyan was stunned. "You're very optimistic," he muttered. Alita replied. "That trait comes from my father." Cyan immediately asked, "Your father, was he the Emperor?" The moment Cyan asked that question, a spark of anger flared in Alita's eyes. "My real father's name was Karen," she said sharply. Just then, a slight change in the air could be felt. There was a rustling sound among the distant trees. Cyan noticed it instantly. "Stay alert," he said quietly. "Something is coming toward us." His exchange energy was also dangerously low. He couldn't run fast anymore. Fear gripped him. He had waited 10 years to return, and now everything could end. At that moment, he made a decision. Even with little energy left, he would launch a magic attack. The Alpha was still standing there, holding Alita in its jaws. Her sword was stuck in its forehead. Suddenly, a brilliant beam of light burst out. Cyan attacked with unexpected speed and power. The colossal wolf crashed to the ground with a powerful impact. Everything happened so quickly that even Cyan himself was surprised. He let out a breath of relief and pulled Alita back. For a moment, he celebrated simply surviving. Then he steadied himself, trying to push away the fear of being dragged back to Earth. Later, in a quiet part of the forest, they sat beside a campfire. Cyan asked, "How do you feel now?" Alita opened her eyes and said, "My whole body hurts." She added that the Alpha probably hadn't intended to kill her, because fiery wolves often capture humans and bring them to their leader. Seeing the alpha's lightning ability, she wondered if it might be some kind of mutation. Then her eyes settled on Cyan. She stayed silent for a moment. Then she asked, "When did we become allies? And why are you hiding your real identity?" She reminded him that the 6 kingdoms had been created by those very heroes. If that was the case, Cyan should be treated like a royal guest. Cyan let out a dry laugh. "A guest? I'd be lucky if I'm not executed." Then he told her the truth. After defeating the Emperor, his own allies had betrayed him and sent him back to Earth. Even now, he still didn't understand why they had done it. It hadn't been an impulsive betrayal. It had been a planned and cold decision. That thought continued to torment him. Then he noticed that Alita, who was usually calm, had turned pale. His revelation had shaken her. Now she understood that this conflict wasn't just personal, it was like a war against all of Terraner. Alita said softly, "You came back for revenge. That's why you're hiding your identity." Cyan stared at her blankly. "You really understood what I meant?" Alita nodded. "Then why are you so calm?" Cyan asked in surprise. "I just said I'm against all 6 kingdoms." Alita smiled faintly. "I'm already their enemy. I've been fighting them for 10 years. Cyan was stunned. "You're very optimistic," he muttered. Alita replied. "That trait comes from my father." Cyan immediately asked, "Your father, was he the Emperor?" The moment he said that, a spark of anger flashed in Alita's eyes. "My real father's name was Karen," she said sharply. Just then, a slight change could be felt in the air. There was a rustling sound among the distant trees, which Cyan immediately noticed. "Stay alert," he said quietly. "Something is coming toward us." Alita, still weak after the fight with the Alpha, looked visibly afraid. "Someone really is coming," she whispered. "An enemy?" she asked. Cyan shook his head. "Maybe not. There's a good chance it's just a lone soldier." Even so, both of them prepared to defend themselves. A few moments later, a young man stepped out of the bushes. He approached hesitantly and said, "Excuse me, could you tell me the directions?" His innocent question didn't reduce their tension at all. Then suddenly, the realization hit. This wasn't an ordinary man. He was the captain of King Lilstein's investigation team. The captain recognized them as well. They were the same people who had defeated his entire team a few days earlier. Alita's anger flared up, and without warning she attacked with her sword. The blade passed dangerously close to the captain's face, and pure terror appeared in his eyes. "Please don't attack! I didn't come here to fight!" the captain shouted. Cyan chose caution over curiosity and struck him, intending only to knock him unconscious. But the moment the blow came, recognition flashed in the captain's eyes. He parried Cyan's skill and landed gracefully on the ground. Even Cyan was shocked. Not even his closest allies had fully understood that skill. So how had this guy avoided it? His curiosity grew. "Who exactly are you?" he asked. At that moment, the captain's expression changed, like he had finally recognized Cyan completely. Slowly, the captain opened his backpack. Cyan became suspicious. "What are you doing?" For a moment, it seemed like he might pull out a dangerous weapon, but the next scene was so strange that both Cyan and Alita froze. The captain pulled out a piece of old underwear from his bag, held it up, and asked, "Tell me, is this really yours?" Cyan and Alita stared at him in disbelief. He looked less like a soldier and more like a maniac. Cyan said angrily, "Alita, finish him." The captain panicked. "Wait! I didn't explain properly." Terrified, he immediately raised his hands. "I surrender!" He even started waving the underwear in the air like a white flag. Cyan was about to attack when his eyes fell on the cloth. There was a name written clearly on it. His own name. He stopped. "This really is mine," he said in shock. A relieved smile spread across the young man's face. "Then I was right. You really are the savior from another world." Cyan narrowed his eyes. "You remember my face?" he asked, because the face's aura wasn't active right now. The young man said excitedly, "My name is Jenin. You saved me 12 years ago in Bourne Village." Cyan looked at him with a blank expression. He didn't remember anything. Jenin quickly began explaining. "You defeated the royal soldiers using the exact same skill you just used against me." His voice was full of respect. "Later, I connected everything and realized something," he continued. "The hero who saved me was the famous savior from another world." He explained that when he later learned aura himself and began training as a swordsman, he understood something else as well. Cyan had never truly wanted to kill his enemies. With a faint smile, Jenin remembered that day. Cyan stared at him in shock. Could this really be the same child he had saved 12 years ago? When Jenin mentioned his age, only 22, Cyan was surprised. He looked far more mature than that. Jenin said calmly, "This appearance is just a shell. The real essence is inside." Cyan frowned. "Why did you learn that strange line?" he asked. Jenin's eyes sparkled. "You said it yourself when you saved me." Cyan's cheeks turned slightly red. A rare moment of embarrassment appeared on his face. As the conversation continued, Cyan awkwardly asked, "Admiration is fine, but why are you carrying my underwear?" Jenin broke into a grin. "This is just the beginning." Pride was obvious in his voice. He started listing everything he had collected: miniature statues, books, drawings, and many relics gathered over the years. He explained that during the entire decade the hero had been missing, he had collected anything related to him. Cyan could only listen in stunned silence. Seeing that fan collection left him completely speechless. Jenin held up the underwear and declared it his most precious treasure. "This is the very one you were wearing when you defeated the mad tyrant," he said with deep reverence. "It cost me a fortune to buy." Cyan shook his head awkwardly. "All right, just put it back." Jenin then explained that he didn't work for King Lilstein out of loyalty. He worked there because the king himself was a devoted admirer of the hero. "Please allow me to become your blade," Jenin said with firm conviction. Cyan asked calmly, "What if your hero becomes the king's enemy?" Jenin didn't hesitate for even a second. "Then I'll accept your sword without defending myself." His excitement was almost uncontrollable. "I won't disappoint you. I'll eliminate these fiery wolves," Cyan replied calmly. "We already defeated the Alpha. Its body is lying right over there." But Jenin's face showed a strange expression. "Fiery wolves usually move in pairs," he said. "Did you not realize the female would be drawn to the male's corpse?" Cyan froze. He hadn't known that detail at all. A cold sense of dread crept into his chest. Only moments later, a massive female wolf appeared in front of them. Her eyes burned with revenge. Without any warning, she lunged to attack. A flash of self-reproach crossed Cyan's mind. Even with all his experience, he had forgotten the possibility of two leaders. The situation had suddenly become deadly again. Alita teased him lightly. "For a veteran, you forgot something pretty basic." Cyan immediately responded with some strange Earth references, which only confused her even more. Just then, Jenin's voice rang out. "Let me take care of this beast. Let me show you my skills, my hero." Cyan gave a small smirk and nodded. "Go ahead." Jenin was filled with excitement. For the first time, he had the chance to prove himself in front of his idol. But the fierce beast was ready for revenge. Without hesitation, Jenin launched a barrage of powerful attacks. Activating his aura, he boosted his strength and unleashed a rapid series of strikes. Alita watched, impressed. "When he fought me earlier, he clearly held himself back," she thought. Cyan was also impressed by his natural combat talent. After hearing Cyan praise him, Alita asked, "What exactly do you call a genius?" Cyan shrugged. "I've seen a lot of geniuses." Then he added, "I'm not a genius. I'm just different because I'm Earthlinked. The real genius was Elvina." Alita fell silent for a moment after hearing that. At that exact moment, the beast prepared to attack again. The enraged wolf unleashed a wave of flames toward Jenin. Confident in his fire resistance, Jenin charged straight forward with his sword raised. Alita panicked, but Cyan's eyes showed a knowing look. Suddenly, blinding lightning burst from the wolf and struck Jenin directly. The electric shock threw him violently to the ground. Cyan said in a dry tone, "Tough view." Alita's eyes widened. She suddenly remembered that she herself had been defeated in the exact same way. Jenin groaned in pain. "The furious fiery wolf can use lightning too," Alita said. She stepped forward, ready to face the beast herself, but Cyan calmly stopped her. "They'll handle this. Its magic won't work on me." Alita immediately understood. Because he came from another world, he should have strong resistance to magic. That was the very reason the Mad Tyrant's monster army had once been so dangerous. Magic simply didn't work well against otherworlders. The Alpha Wolf unleashed flames again, but Cyan continued walking forward without stopping. "Your magic is useless," he said confidently. "At first, I was only acting in front of the crowd," Cyan said. "Now I won't hold anything back." At that exact moment, a bolt of lightning arced through the air and struck Cyan directly. His body jerked violently. Alida watched with a resigned expression, while Jenin stood there in shock. His idol had just been knocked down. Tough you, right? Alida said sarcastically. Cyan immediately snapped. Don't repeat my line. He himself was in disbelief. How was this even possible? The flames hadn't even touched him, but the lightning had struck him directly. Embarrassment and anger flushed across his face. The public humiliation only made him more furious. In a burst of rage, he attacked the wolf with a strike powerful enough to shatter a mountain. The beast crashed to the ground with a massive impact. The fight was over. But a question continued echoing inside Cyan's mind. The wolf lay dead, yet he couldn't stop thinking about it. The flames had been useless against him, so how had the lightning worked? Alida spoke in an overly formal tone. Sir? Cyan immediately looked irritated. Just say my name. Alida replied with a sarcastic expression. I wouldn't dare. An awkward silence filled the air, but Cyan barely noticed their banter. His gaze remained fixed on the fallen alpha wolf. Deep confusion was written all over his face. He still couldn't understand how the lightning had managed to hit him. The beast was defeated, yet a powerful aura was still radiating from its body. Even as the savior from another world, Cyan was completely puzzled. For him, this should have been impossible. The more he thought about it, the more confused he became. The effect of the lightning was beyond his understanding, and that thought disturbed him deeply. Later, when they returned to the stronghold, Lord Tad welcomed them with a sigh of relief. He thanked them for surviving and for driving away the entire wolf pack. According to their agreement, he handed Cyan and Alida their payment. A pouch containing 600 silver coins. Cyan weighed the pouch in his hand and said, This isn't enough for our bigger plans, but for one mission it'll do. Excitedly, he turned to Alida. We'll take 5 or 6 missions every day. Alida replied in a dry tone. There aren't even that many jobs available. Getting this mission was already lucky. At that moment, Jenin walked over to them. He was holding a pouch that made the distinct sound of gold coins. He opened it, and revealed several gold coins inside. Both of them were shocked. Where did you get that much money? They asked. With a sheepish expression, Jenin explained that he had sold one item from Cyan's collection. Cyan's face immediately turned red with embarrassment. He instantly regretted asking the question. Jenin, on the other hand, was smiling proudly, happy that he had helped. Alida smirked. Looks like your underwear is pretty valuable. Cyan muttered. Quietly. It was a limited edition. His embarrassment only grew worse. Jenin then asked excitedly. So what's the next plan? We have this much gold now. There's no need to work as mercenaries anymore. Cyan fell into thought. From Kagan, we can travel to 3 neighboring countries. I haven't decided yet. After a moment, he added. First, we'll go where the enemy is the weakest. Suddenly, old faces from his memories flashed through his mind. I never thought I'd meet my old friends again under circumstances like this, he said quietly while looking at the coin in his hand. A stronger resolve appeared in his eyes. The north, he finally said. That's where we'll go first. Meanwhile, inside Lilstein's laboratory, a strange scene was unfolding. The surface of a water-filled barrel shimmered, and the ghostly reflection of Meztran appeared on it. Your Majesty! His urgent voice echoed. Lilstein was startled. He hadn't expected a report today. Why did you contact me? He asked. Tran reported that hunters were no longer needed for subjects 11 and 12. The kingdom of Barcelonium had already eliminated them. Lilstein scoffed. They were weak subjects anyway. But Tran's voice grew heavier. Subject 1 has disappeared. The moment he heard that, Lilstein's face turned red with rage. Have you lost your mind, Tran? Lilstein roared. You're the head of the Blue Ivory Tower, yet you showed this level of incompetence? He began listing the 4 magical towers. The red, white, blue, and black ivory towers. The first king of Lusland had gathered all magical knowledge and divided it into separate disciplines so that every mage could grow according to their aptitude. Lilstein's voice turned cold and dangerous. In the tower, your floor represents your skill. Cyan moved to the 9th floor of the red ivory tower. You're only the head because the ones before you were executed. His words were full of venom. And there are plenty of people on the 8th floor who would gladly replace you. Lilstein's voice became dangerously calm. You have one last chance to eliminate Subject 1. Tran's spectral image trembled with fear. Both of them knew exactly what failure would mean. Lilstein waved his hand, and the communication link was instantly cut. Back in his laboratory, Tran let out a heavy breath, as if he had narrowly escaped death. Even as the head of the Blue Ivory Tower, fear and relief mixed inside him. He convinced himself that his position was still secure and that the king's trust had not yet vanished. The scene then shifted to Rajal, the capital of the Yaxnard kingdom, surrounded by mountains and dense forests. Inside the palace, a man hurried nervously toward a chamber. A subordinate entered and announced loudly, "Your Majesty." King Runberg smiled. "Come in, magistrate. Have a drink with me. Let's take a break from duties." The magistrate looked around the room. Wine, laughter, and celebration filled the chamber. Frustration was clearly written across his face. "My king," he said with restrained anger. "These constant festivities are distracting the kingdom from important political matters." Yaxnard waved his hand dismissively. "After surviving the empire, we're finally allowed to feel some happiness." The magistrate replied firmly, "This money comes from the hard work of the people." The king shrugged. "The previous monarch took 60%. I only take 50. The magistrate's anger rose. "Reducing it by 10% is not mercy." Runberg's voice turned cold. "I didn't burn villages. I didn't enslave thousands." The magistrate immediately responded, "But you've still shown brutality." The king laughed. "That's simply the spoils of war. A beggar has no right to dictate terms." The magistrate wanted to argue further, but the king's gaze sharpened. "It's time for you to leave," he said bluntly. The sudden dismissal left the magistrate stunned. Filled with anger and disappointment, he turned and walked away. As he left, he couldn't stop thinking about how far his king had drifted from his duties. On the battlefield, Yaxnard had been a lion of a warrior, but governing a kingdom was something entirely different. The magistrate wondered if the right person might someday guide him back onto the proper path. What he didn't know was that the king had already planned a very different kind of retirement for him. At that moment, another figure entered the chamber. "Your Majesty," the man said. Runberg recognized him instantly and gave a rare smile. It was his old friend, Lord Keltron. Keltron apologized for interrupting and said there were urgent matters that required immediate attention. He placed a bundle of documents in front of the king. "These fall directly under your authority." Runberg took the papers, but irritation was obvious on his face. Without even looking at them, he scoffed. "You handle it, Keltron." King Runberg tossed the documents into the air, scattering them like confetti. A carefree smile spread across his face. "My duty," he said casually, "is to protect the helpless. Trivial things like that aren't worth my time." The scene shifted again to the western outskirts of Rajal, where an old, broken mansion stood. Alida stared at it in surprise. "This will be our base," Sion said. Suddenly, Jenin panicked. "This place is cursed. We can't stay here," he shouted. His friends looked at him with curious expressions. Jenin insisted that the place had to be purified before anyone could enter. For a long time, the only sounds coming from inside were his shouting and the loud noises of intense cleaning. Alida leaned closer to Sion and whispered, "Does a normal person clean like that?" Eventually, Jenin came back outside. He looked completely exhausted, but victorious. "You can come in now," he said proudly. "The house is still bad, but at least it's clean." The moment Sion stepped inside, his eyes widened. The once dilapidated mansion had completely changed. Every surface was sparkling. "Why are you so obsessed with cleaning?" he asked genuinely. Alida quietly thought to herself that if she ever had to fight Jenin, all she would need to do was spit on the floor. Sion placed a hand on Jenin's shoulder. "Excellent job, young knight." Then he spoke with excitement. "Now we finally have a base. We need to start preparing to face King Yaxnard." Sion immediately began explaining the strategy. The 6 kingdoms of Terrainer are divided into 3 tiers: strong, average, and weak. Lilstein and the Antheus Empire are the strongest. Saffron and Phaos are average. And the Yaxnard and Anti-kingdoms are considered weak. They've been stagnating for the past 10 years. Jenin added that this imbalance had increased conflicts between the kingdoms. The biggest recent conflict had been the Kargan War. Lilstein and the Antheus Empire had fought over control of the city, forcing the other kingdoms to intervene. Yaxnard had also joined the opposing side. In the end, after King Runberg made his declarations, the war finally stopped, and control of the city was divided. After hearing this, Sion realized that the rivalry between Lilstein and the Antheus Empire could become a strategic advantage for him. As they stepped outside the house, he said calmly, "Power struggles between kingdoms are natural." Jenin suddenly felt guilty. "Maybe I unknowingly gave my loyalty to villains," he admitted. At that moment, Sion noticed Alida training nearby. She was practicing the 1,000 faces technique, but her transformation suddenly became distorted. Cyan looked stunned. I can't maintain it, Alita admitted. Cyan burst out laughing. Annoyed, she asked, What's so funny about that? Stay calm, Cyan explained. Imagine an invisible hand touching your face. Then he described how she should visualize controlling the aura, almost like applying makeup. But Alita still looked confused. I've already heard this explanation 3 times, she said tiredly. Isn't there an easier way? Cyan admitted that even he didn't fully understand the technique. He had simply learned it from Alvina. When Alita asked him to teach it the same way he had learned it, Cyan gave a surprising answer. That's impossible, because I'm from Earth. He explained that the people of Earth and Terraner had similar bodies, but they processed magic and combat energy in completely different ways. I wasn't born with combat energy, Cyan said. To control it, I had to develop an internal sensing ability. But because I'm a Terran, that process eventually became easier for me, Cyan said with confidence that he had naturally mastered both combat energy and magical energy, reaching the highest level in just 3 years. Alita was shocked by this and said, That sounds like some kind of hacker technique. Cyan reminded her that he himself had called it a prodigy-like ability. According to Lilstein's research, the reason for his powers was simply that he came from another world. Alita frowned in frustration. How can someone become that talented just by crossing dimensions? That sounds like a scam. Cyan laughed and said that if he couldn't teach her properly, she would just have to learn it herself. Then Alita asked a question that immediately caught his full attention. If someone were sent out of Terraner and then brought back, would they gain abilities like yours? Cyan thought about it for a moment. Finally, he admitted that it might actually be possible. Suddenly, the ground began shaking violently, and all 3 of them were startled. The earth kept trembling. Jenin asked nervously, Is this an earthquake? Cyan shook his head. No. I think I know the reason. The next moment, the ground split open. Craters formed as nearby buildings began collapsing. People crawled out of the rubble, screaming in panic. Many were injured. Then they saw the source. Ferocious monsters were attacking the city. Panic spread everywhere. People ran through the streets, shouting for help. Massive lion-like beasts with huge jagged teeth charged into the capital. Lycans! The locals screamed as chaos spread through the streets. One giant beast suddenly lunged toward a little girl. Its razor-sharp claws were about to crush her. But Cyan rushed forward instantly and pulled her out of danger. Are you all right? He asked with concern. Jenin looked around and said, There are at least 30 of these beasts. Cyan was shocked. How did mountain monsters reach the capital? I wanted to avoid drawing attention, he muttered. But right now saving people is more important. Jenin immediately jumped into the fight, and Alita also charged toward the monsters. The 3 of them began pushing back the invaders together. But then something unexpected happened. The capital's army suddenly arrived and shouted a direct order. Stop attacking the beasts! Alita looked shocked. These are the Yaxingard Knights, she said. Cyan initially thought help had finally arrived. They must be here to stop the destruction. But the situation changed instantly. The soldiers suddenly surrounded them. Their blades gleamed dangerously close to Cyan's neck. One knight spoke coldly. Cease your attack. This territory falls under the jurisdiction of the Black Lion Knights. Leave immediately. Alita snapped angrily. People are dying from monsters and you're stopping us? The knight barked back. Silence. This is a royal decree. Obey the crown's orders. Jenin became confused. He couldn't understand what was actually happening. Cyan, as always, stayed quiet and carefully observed the situation. Suddenly, there was a strange shift in the air. Cyan's senses instantly picked up a powerful presence. Behind the line of soldiers, a heavy aura began to rise, like a powerful figure approaching. Cyan narrowed his eyes. That energy felt strangely familiar. With every step, his certainty grew stronger. The shadow finally cleared. Standing there was King Runberg himself. His booming voice echoed across the plaza. How dare you harm my people? A confident smile rested on his face, just like always. There's no need to panic. I'm here, he said. The king ordered the Black Lion Knights to protect the civilians while he personally dealt with the monsters. The soldiers immediately formed a defensive barrier in front of the people. Watching this grand entrance, Cyan felt strangely uneasy. Runberg stretched his shoulders slightly and said, These days, my body has grown even stronger. Without wasting another moment, he stepped forward. He held massive axes in both hands. His roar echoed through the plaza. "I'll destroy every last one of you!" The crowd stood stunned by his raw strength. He wielded the enormous weapons as if they weighed nothing. The Axnard King became a blur of steel as he charged straight into the beasts. One by one, the monsters fell. A smug smile of superiority appeared on his face. How did these creatures even think they could face me? But suddenly, something unexpected happened. The beasts began fleeing in fear. The king's triumphant expression instantly turned into rage. "I won't let them escape!" He slammed his foot against the ground. A shimmering magical circle appeared beneath his axes. Jenin's eyes widened. "A battle seal!" he exclaimed in shock. Alida asked, "What kind of technique is that?" Jenin quickly explained that only transcendent rank swordsmen could use it. It was a special magical seal fueled by combat energy. The next instant, a blinding flash erupted as the king released his attack. Runberg's signature technique, joined hand battle seal, struck the fleeing beasts. In a single moment, the monsters were completely wiped out. Cheers erupted from the crowd. People began praising the king like a hero. Alida was impressed by his strength, while Jenin wondered if this was the true power of a transcendent rank warrior. But Cyan wasn't focused on the king's power. Something about Runberg's actions felt subtly strange to him. Slowly, a realization began forming in his mind. This entire scene had been orchestrated. The monster attack wasn't just about protection, it was a setup designed to win the people's trust. Anger rose inside Cyan. He had never imagined that Runberg would resort to such deception. His disbelief kept growing. He remembered the day of the betrayal, when the king had worn the same flawless facade. Even now, he stood before the people like a perfect hero. Yaxnard smiled as the crowd praised him. The people called him a revolutionary hero. But Cyan's gaze sharpened. He could clearly see that something else was hiding behind that charisma. The king's performance felt hollow to him. The pieces began connecting in his mind. This entire spectacle was carefully planned drama meant to inflate the king's ego. Cyan even wondered if the whole show had been arranged by a subordinate so that Yaxnard would remain distracted from the kingdom's real problems. Then suddenly, the king's permanent smile wavered slightly. It was as if he had sensed an unseen presence. A wave of tension ran through Cyan. Had his identity been discovered? Runberg's sharp gaze swept across the crowd and paused on him for a brief moment. The king was certain he had never seen this man before. But his instincts told him this wasn't an ordinary person. Even so, he said nothing and continued scanning the crowd carefully. A soldier's voice finally broke the silence. "Return to the castle, your majesty." Runberg immediately returned to his usual composure. "Yes," he replied. The crowd's cheers grew louder as the king walked away, ignoring the strange feeling that had crossed his mind. From a distance, Cyan watched him quietly. He thought that Runberg might appear foolish, but even after 10 years, his body still felt like a walking fortress. Cyan decided that this was not the right time to reveal himself. Every step had to be carefully planned. His grand plan needed to be flawless. For now, patience was his greatest weapon. 10 days later, Cyan and his companions had firmly established their presence in the capital of Ranjal. During this time, Alida trained relentlessly in the Thousand Faces technique. She had begun subtly changing her appearance. Jenin, meanwhile, immersed himself in deep training in the Mountain Destroyer art, following Cyan's teachings. His magic and combat energy had grown so much that his capacity had become 3 times greater than when they had first returned to Terrainer. All 3 of them were growing stronger individually, but together they were simply waiting for the right moment. That opportunity soon arrived from the Bursal region. Reports began spreading that malevolent cultists were using demons to spread chaos. The king issued a decree that these disturbances would be crushed without mercy. A call for an expedition was announced. Heroes were promised honor and rewards. Cyan carefully examined one of the posters. "Are these really pagans?" he asked. Jenin read it closely and said, "It's the Dimension Clan." He remembered that during the time of the Mad King, similar cultists had existed, but the Empire had wiped them out. However, the poster revealed that they had adopted a new doctrine and recruited new followers. Jenin continued, "Now they call themselves the Second Coming of Cyan." Cyan was stunned. Jenin explained that the cult believed the savior of the world was the son of a god, sent to punish Terrainer. According to the records, Sahan had once tried to bring the entire world to Earth, but the 6 revolutionary heroes stopped him. Sehan's mind immediately made the connection. This was the perfect chance to confront the cult that had been terrorizing civilians. He had assumed Rundberg would lead the expedition himself, and that would have given him the opening he needed for his plan. Saihan decided to join the hunt. Just then, a loud voice echoed across the area. "Everyone, line up!" Kellen Terran stepped forward and announced that he would lead the expedition under Yaxnard's orders. Rewards would be given based on performance. From a short distance away, Alita asked, "Who will personally lead it?" Seihan's heart sank when Kelteron spoke again. "I will be leading the expedition. The king himself will not be participating." Seihan's mind began racing. He had been certain that Jagsard would personally lead the expedition. But with the king absent, his entire plan had changed. He began wondering what could have happened that prevented the king from coming in person. Meanwhile, Kelteron smiled to himself. He remembered how much effort it had taken to keep Yed away from this hunt. This time, the leadership was in his hands. But there was also a secret reason behind it. A servant of Lilstein had assigned him a clandestine mission, and that was the real purpose of this expedition. Yaxnard's servant had easily accepted the mage's request, especially since sponsors like Tran and Agile were supporting it. To ensure the mission's success, the mage had promised to provide Dan, several 6th-level mages, and 5 Black Lion Knights. Kelteron had also been tasked with recruiting competent troops. "That might be a little difficult," Tran said. Kelteron replied in an ambitious tone. "If this clears the Blue Ivory Tower's debt, then nothing is difficult." A short while later, he gave the order. "Follow me." The pagan hunt expedition had begun. Far away, inside a hidden enclave, a gathering of pagans was taking place. Their leader, a charismatic young man named Ilrin, was delivering a powerful speech. "Sons and daughters of Horus," he called out. "The faithful have finally taken up the sun's swords." He declared that the kingdoms were trying to take away their faith. But death, he claimed, was the only true liberation. The crowd was completely absorbed in his words. "The death of others is joy for our God," he roared. Then he called forward those who had been chosen for the tribulation. 3 figures stepped forward, including a small girl. Ilrin looked at the girl and said, "Don't be afraid. You are blessed by the heroes." The girl replied, "I'm not afraid." Ilrin smiled and, with a dramatic gesture, summoned the hero's dragon. A sinister aura began rising from deep within the cave. The girl's courage began to break, and the fear in her eyes became obvious. Then a massive dark dragon emerged, its hunger almost palpable in the air. The girl said excitedly, "Monster, accept my devotion." In the next instant, a horrifying flash appeared. The dragon swallowed her in a single motion with lightning speed. The remaining two offerings stepped back in terror. The dragon, now satisfied, slowly retreated back into the cave. Ilrin raised his voice and made the announcement. "The messenger of God has accepted the offering." Relief appeared on his face, but it was quickly replaced by concern. He glanced toward the pouch at his side. The powder inside was running out fast. "As long as I have the ashes of the Laslan family hearts, the dragon will remain under my control," he muttered. But deep down, he knew that this control would not last much longer. If he were captured, he would simply deny everything. A dark resolve flashed in his eyes. Meanwhile, deep inside the dense forest, the expedition had come to a halt. The commander of the Black Lion Knights gave the order. "Set up camp here." The group began preparing to rest, but the lack of discipline was obvious. Jenin was clearly irritated. "If we can't even manage supplies properly, how are we supposed to fight as a united force? In a mercenary expedition, this kind of chaos is normal," Alita replied. Then she added with a hint of sarcasm, "But someone as all-powerful as you probably wouldn't know that." At her words, irritation flashed in Jenin's eyes. "Strange. Someone with noble blood like you is saying that to me?" he shot back. Their angry gazes locked. Just then, Cyan cut in sharply. "Jenin, choose your words carefully. If this spreads, it'll be a problem for you." Jenin immediately calmed down and quietly muttered an apology. Once the tension faded, Cyan spoke again. "I'm really hungry. Can someone make something to eat?" Jenin's face instantly brightened. Wanting to please his idol, he quickly went off to prepare food. Cyan asked in a tired tone, "Stew again?" Jenin nodded. Alita explained in a practical voice. "Stew cooks quickly and provides the nutrients we need for the journey." Cyan admitted that it was useful, but eating the same thing for the 5th time in a row was getting boring. Alita answered bluntly, "We eat for survival, not for pleasure." A short while later, Jenin proudly announced, "Dinner's ready." Cyan and Alita didn't show much excitement when they saw the familiar pot. But this time, Jenin had actually done something different. The smell and taste of this stew immediately surprised everyone. When Cyan praised it, Jenin became embarrassed. "It's just a simple vegetable stew," he said shyly. "Cooking is my hobby." Cyan was surprised. "You could even be a palace cook," he said. Alita finished her first bowl and immediately asked for another. Jenin happily served her more. Cyan quietly watched the scene. His respect for Jenin grew even more. Just then, a cold drop of water fell on Cyan's head. Within moments, heavy rain began pouring down. Many of the tents hadn't even been fully set up yet. Count Keltern started shouting in anger. "Some of them are still unprotected." The rain kept getting heavier, Cyan said to Jenin. "In this rain, it's hard to sense anything." Jenin nodded in agreement. Alita reminded them that Sahan's cult drew its power from demons, and demons usually didn't attack during heavy rain. But Jenin still looked uneasy. "What if someone is controlling them?" Cyan answered confidently. "Impossible. Even the most powerful mind controller can't completely override a demon's primal instincts." His words helped everyone relax a little. Then suddenly, a scream echoed through the rain. "Enemies! Attack!" A massive shadow appeared in the sky above. The mercenaries began running around in panic. Cyan's face darkened with disappointment. "Looks like Trainer has changed a lot in these 10 years. From inside a tent, Alita watched in horror. Despite the storm, demons were descending from the sky. The real question was, who was controlling them? A leader's voice rang out. "Who's controlling them doesn't matter. Form up! Circle formation!" The mercenaries quickly moved into battle formation. One brave mercenary shouted at a roaring demon. "You're just an animal that learned how to fight." The young man with an eye patch raised his sword and stepped forward. Determination was clear on his face. "We've already walked through hell. We're not afraid." The eye-patched mercenary and his companion charged at a lizard-shaped demon. Their attack landed, and for a moment it seemed the beast had been easily killed. But suddenly, something strange happened. Young man's face with a brutal blow. Shock spread through the mercenaries. The beasts refused to retreat, even after taking heavy damage. Cyan spoke in a grim voice. "They're being controlled. Until they're completely destroyed, they won't stop." His words made everyone realize how serious the situation truly was. Cyan immediately changed the strategy. "Focus on them one at a time. Don't attack everything at once." The mercenaries followed his instructions and reorganized their assault. The Black Lion Knights watched from a distance, impressed by his leadership. "He's useful when it comes to handling chaos," one of them said. Javrin thought to himself that if Cyan could command like this, he might actually be useful to them. Meanwhile, Cyan was fighting at full power. His speed and control began cutting down the monsters one after another. Seeing his confident movements boosted the morale of the other fighters. As the last beast fell, the mercenaries let out a sigh of relief. Victory cheers echoed through the rain-soaked clearing. But even as the celebration continued, Cyan's brows slowly tightened. There had been a dozen beasts, and not a single one had tried to retreat. That detail bothered him. His mind began racing. How had such a large horde appeared in the middle of a storm like this? He began to suspect that some kind of powerful enchantment was at work. Then his eyes drifted toward a nearby tent where several silhouettes were talking anxiously inside. The figures in the tent looked clearly uneasy, as if something had gone wrong. A cold certainty settled inside Cyan. The real purpose of this expedition was not to stop the cultists. Just then, Count Kelteron's voice rang out. He ordered strict vigilance, and warned that anyone who neglected their duty would be punished. The mercenaries immediately began grumbling. They complained that their leader had stayed hidden during the battle. Jenin was frustrated as well, and Alita openly called the Count selfish. Seeing the tension rising, Cyan stepped in and tried to calm everyone down. "He's always been like this," Cyan said, as if he knew more about the Count than the others. Jenin asked curiously, "Do you know him?" "Not personally," Cyan replied. "But stories about Kelteron of Terran are well known. He has the body of a sage, but the cunning of a beast." Jenin looked confused at first. Then, with admiration, he said, "Then maybe he isn't useless after all." Cyan gave a faint smile. "You misunderstood," he said. "What I mean is that he's a complete imbecile." At his sarcasm, Alita frowned. Cyan continued, saying that the Count had no real martial skill, yet he always managed to survive every danger. Pure luck. Alida fell into thought. Perhaps he couldn't be completely incompetent if he had remained the Count of Jard for so many years. After the first skirmish ended, the Count finally came out and praised the exhausted mercenaries. He ordered everyone to rest, saying the real hunt would begin in the morning. Cyan quietly observed the mercenaries. Just moments ago they had been calling Kelteron a coward, yet now they were praising him. It's confidential. She turned to leave, but before going, her gaze stopped on Alida. Surprise flashed in Dina's eyes. Seeing someone of such a young age already at fighter rank impressed her. A true prodigy, she thought to herself. Alida grew curious after noticing her reaction. As they entered the room, Cyan quietly masked his aura using the Thousand Faces technique so his identity would remain hidden. Inside, several knights and mages were gathered in a serious meeting. Gelderin and Hark introduced themselves, then pointed to a detailed map spread across the table. A marked location on the map showed the stronghold of the pagan cultists, only half a day's distance away. Mage Hark asked Cyan if he had noticed the beasts being controlled during the recent battle. Jenin immediately spoke up. It was the first time demons attacked in such a coordinated way, especially during a storm. Hark's gaze sharpened, as if he was impressed that the mercenaries had noticed the anomaly. Then he asked directly, "Can the three of you be trusted with a secret?" Cyan replied with sarcasm, "That depends on the offer." Hark gave a faint smile and overturned a heavy pouch onto the table. Gold coins spilled out, shining under the light. Jenin's eyes widened in shock. Cyan remembered that once even his underwear had sold for only 100 gold. Calmly, he said, "That should be enough." Hark's expression turned serious. "Maintain your attitude," he said before revealing the truth. Sahan's cult doesn't possess beast control magic. What they use is dark sorcery powered by human sacrifices. He then explained the difference between magic and sorcery. Magic was structured and academic, while sorcery was unstructured and fueled by sacrifices. Cyan listened carefully. So the beasts were controlled through sorcery? He asked. Hark shook his head. They don't have a sorcerer capable of doing that. He admitted that the Real story was embarrassing. Then he mentioned a secret spell from the Blue Ivory Tower. Hearing that immediately sparked Cyan's curiosity. Hark began the story. On the 6th floor of the Blue Tower, there had been a talented mage named Rarkin. He was involved in highly classified experiments. But blinded by ambition, he lost control of several experimental beasts. The punishment was extremely harsh. All his titles and rights were stripped away, and he was sentenced to the punishment of the 4 elements. Jenin quickly asked, "What is that?" The mage explained that it was an execution ritual carried out using earth, water, fire, and wind, the Blue Tower's ultimate punishment. Cyan frowned. He couldn't understand what mistake could deserve such an extreme sentence. Hark's gaze suddenly sharpened. He stared at Jenin and said, "Do you understand the seriousness of your words?" The mercenary immediately panicked and apologized. Hark continued the story. Rarkin escaped from his cell and took with him a beast that had been used for subjugation testing. That was the real crisis. The creature wasn't ordinary. It possessed the ability to control nearby beasts. The pieces of the puzzle clicked together in Cyan's mind. Now he understood why the beasts had fought even against their own instincts. The mage explained that Rant's father was a high-ranking member of the very cult they were hunting, and that this beast was the core of their plan. Gelderin finally clarified the true objective. The mission wasn't about eliminating the cultists. Their real goal was to destroy that beast, and erase every trace of the Blue Tower's involvement. Cyan spoke again, sounding slightly awkward. "So you're saying that it looks like an old beast?" he said. Hark replied in a grim tone. "It's even worse than that." The knight's confusion only deepened. Then another shockwave echoed through the area. Hark and the 2 Black Lion Knights froze for a moment. They realized that the demonic beasts were stampeding directly toward the tavern. A massive beast easily smashed through the tavern wall. Their worst fear had come true. The beast had targeted the tavern because something was hidden inside it. The Count screamed in fear. "I was told this place was safe." He desperately began begging for help. Amid the chaos, the trainee Dina found herself trapped alone in front of a ferocious beast. It was about to strike when Cyan suddenly appeared like a flash and stopped the attack. Dina let out a breath of relief. Moments later, Alida and Jenin arrived and joined the fight. Gelderin gave Cyan a grateful nod. "Thank you for saving the people in the tavern." Then he asked, "Where are the rest of the mercenaries?" He quickly gave orders. "Protect the Count. The rest of us will eliminate the beasts." The terrified Count immediately shouted, "Save me!" But Cyan's attention was elsewhere. He sensed a powerful presence approaching. In the next moment, a massive paw descended from the sky. The great earth beast had appeared. It was the very creature commanding the other beasts. The entire village had already fallen into flames. Genin jumped back into the battle and brought down another beast. "Hold on! We're going to win!" he shouted, encouraging his allies. The Count also began showing confidence. "This is exactly what I expected from the Black Lion Knights." But Cyan's instincts told him otherwise. He carefully scanned the battlefield. Many beasts had fallen, but there were fewer bodies than expected. The truth became clear. They were retreating. Then suddenly, the sky darkened. A collective gasp spread through the battlefield. A dragon was circling above them. Even the knights visibly flinched. "A dragon," someone said in a strained voice. The dragon roared and began coiling its body for an attack. "Hold your ground! Don't panic!" Gelderin shouted. "Mages, defensive spells!" As the dragon launched its attack, a shimmering water barrier appeared and blocked the strike. Hope spread among the soldiers. "The barrier held," one knight said. But exhaustion was visible on every face. The continuous battles had drained everyone's energy. Gelderin spoke irritably. "And what about the other beasts under the dragon's control?" Hark gave a grave warning. "The dragon's domination ability may grow even stronger." The knights grew uneasy hearing that, but Gelderin steadied himself. "Now isn't the time for complaints." Then he gave the command. "Move!" Determination burned in his eyes. "Our exhaustion doesn't matter." The battle wasn't over, and everyone knew the real fight was only just beginning. "We will make this dragon hear the roar of the Black Lions!" Jobrin roared. The dragon charged toward them again. Without hesitation, the captain raised a shimmering magical shield. It formed a solid wall in front of his companions. Then he unleashed his attack. Annihilation! At that moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on his determination. A massive protection shield glowed brightly. It was the peak of the Black Lion Knight's defensive magic. Genin's eyes widened with admiration. Cyan quietly said, "This reminds me of the old Yaxnard." His mind drifted back to the past. Yaxnard's reckless fighting style was almost identical to the techniques the knights were using now. Suddenly, he realized something. The strengths and weaknesses of the Black Lion Knights might be the same as Yaxnard's. He made a quick decision. "Let's help them," he said to his companions. But Keltaron suddenly screamed in panic. "You can't leave me here!" Cyan replied firmly. "If the knights fall, we'll die too." The Count became even more frightened. "Get me out of here!" Genin and Alida looked at him in disbelief. Everyone else was fighting the dragon, and he only wanted to run. "Take me out right now!" Keltaron shouted. But Cyan had already formed a plan. The three friends looked at each other. Their silent understanding was clear. They would have to convince the Count somehow. Then suddenly Keltaron turned toward them and said, "You're going to knock me out, aren't you?" He started ranting nervously. But in the next moment, his eyes. If you enjoyed this manhwa recap, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave a like if you want the next part, and comment below if you'd like to see more manhwa stories like this.